We'd like to talk now about, Syria. There's a major announcement. There's a major battle going on in southeast Syria, southwest Syria, and the rebels are, backed in a corner. And we've been, of course, ironically, people don't want to believe this, but we were sort of on the side of the rebels, and Al Qaeda, but they're losing. And there's going to be a major battle. The Syrian government, along with their ally Russia, said, we're going to clean this mess up. We're going to reclaim this territory, and this is our sovereign territory. So, and it looks like they're going to do it. So when push came to shove, we had an announcement. We've been financing and defending them and having special protection in there and information. And our announcement is, we're backing off. We don't want to have anything to do with this. You're on your own now. So this is, it's an important battle, but it's very symbolic too of what is shifting and going on. I mean, it's been many months now that the momentum has been shifted in favor of Assad. Nobody expects Assad to be gone in 6 months. Mm-hmm. He hasn't been gone in 6 years, so he's not going to be gone in 6 months. So they've given up on this, and it's sort of a cleanup operation now, it's something that I think that is going to be noticed, although there's not very much talk about this in the mainstream media.
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit last week, that it's been touch and go because the U.S. has issued several statements to the Syrian government. Don't you dare go after these parts, this Daraa region in southwestern Syria. Don't you do it, there'll be consequences. And then at the end of the week, the tone softened a little bit. They didn't have the implicit threat of U.S. force. So there was a sense that there was a shift. And so over the weekend, the U.S. sent a message to the Free Syrian Army, which is really essentially al-Qaeda forces in the region, quote, "You should not base your decisions on the assumption of a military intervention by the U.S." That's a good sentence.
Right. And, Haley has a statement, and, of course, the blame was all placed on Russia. It was Russia's fault. She didn't give a fair and balanced approach to why Russia is there and why Syria is concerned about this. But,
the Syrian government is already moving on this area, and we have a map, actually, that might help us visualize it better, this part of the region. But so there's southwestern Syria. The green areas are controlled by the Free Syrian Army / HTS, which is al-Nusra Front, i.e. al-Qaeda. The red, of course, is the Syrian government forces, and they've already actually made more advances since this picture was taken. That black, the blue is Israel-occupied Golan Heights, and that little black part to the right of the blue is ISIS. So it's ISIS and al-Qaeda there. You can see Damascus at the top. The Syrian government is making its move. It's going to clear out this last part. And they dropped some pamphlets themselves and said, hey, you guys, you should surrender. People, if you can leave, you should leave. And so far, apparently 11 rebel groups in the southwest region have gone over to the government side and decided to not fight. And this was the CIA's baby, this Free Syrian Army / al-Qaeda troops, particularly down there. This was the CIA's baby. It's one of their most expensive operations in history. They were paying all the salaries, sending in billions of tons of equipment and all this and that, and boom, it just dropped like a rock as a total, complete failure. Oh, and by the way, sorry we ruined your country.
Yeah. And we have this strategic ally with the enemy, and then when we don't do so well, like in Libya and Syria, who ends up with the weapons? They end up against us, or against Assad and other people who deserve a little bit more respect. But our weapons, are so often used against us. And of course, there's the financial angle. There's a lot of waste and fraud and abuse and subsidizing and supporting the enemies. So in one way, we can keep our fingers crossed. This is not really bad news for us. And some people would say, no, we can't let this stand because this looks like a failure and we have to. There's still people today who complain that the main problem we had in Vietnam is that we gave up too soon. We only sacrificed 60,000 people, and we didn't give up, so we needed more troops. 250,000 troops on the ground wasn't enough. We should have had 500,000, 750,000 to prove that we own the world. Well, I think eventually this little episode here in Syria, which you describe as a major episode with the CIA, that this may be a signal that we don't have the weight that we think we have around the world and running the world, because eventually empires do fail. It's just a matter of time.
And of course, the people calling for all those more troops were not in uniform themselves, just like the neocons of today, which reminds me of Josh Rogan, the neocon who writes for the Washington Post. He tweeted out earlier today, crying all these tears about how Russia is violating the deconfliction agreement by helping Syria get rid of the al-Qaeda rebels in southwestern Syria. This is the canard that they've been saying over and over, and Nikki Haley has repeated it too, and so has the State Department. This is an absolute patent lie. There has never been a deconfliction agreement that exempts al-Qaeda and ISIS from being hit. We talked about it earlier. That's the whole reason they had this deconfliction agreement that the Syrian government wasn't a party of, to allow a more effective attack on al-Qaeda and ISIS. So they're just lying through their teeth.
I have a policy that I think would solve that, and that is let's have deconfliction by just leaving. We don't need the conflict because